Everyone to the annual meeting of the board. This meeting has been duly advertised as a public meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act and is therefore open to the members of the public as observers. Welcome. The meeting is also being streamed on the university's YouTube channel and is being recorded. As noted, the recording is in progress. The recording that you've just heard is going to be made available at a later time on the university's website. This is a hybrid meeting with attendees who are in person as well as others who are joining us virtually. A quorum is present for the transaction of business. Participation in the meeting is limited to members of the board and to those individuals the board has invited in advance to take part. I would like to welcome the ex officio, I would like to acknowledge and welcome our ex officio trustees who are in attendance. Dr. Tanya Garcia, welcome, the Deputy Secretary and Commissioner for Post-Secondary and Higher Education of the Pennsylvania Department of Education and the designee of the Secretary of Education. Thank you, Dr. Garcia, for joining both this meeting and the information meeting. County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, a pleasure to see you as well. Thank you for joining. And I do not believe that Representative Frankel was able. Is he? Sorry. Wait. Where'd he go? There he was right there. Okay. When Representative Frankel comes back in, we are welcome to see him, and he is the Governor Wolf's nominee. I do want to start the meeting with a few sad notes. Since the winter meeting, several trustees have lost family members, as have many members of our Pitt and local community. I would also like to acknowledge the passing of former Provost Donald Henderson and our former board secretary, Robert Dunkelman, both of whom had dedicated years of service, decades of service, candidly, to the university. Donald Henderson, Robert Dunkelman, and all members of our Pitt and local community who have passed will be dearly missed. On behalf of the board, I offer my sincere condolences to those who have recently lost loved ones. Please join me in a moment of silence in their memory. Thank you. The minutes of the Winter Board of Trustees meeting were distributed to you in advance of today's meetings and can be found in the meeting materials. Are there any corrections, amendments, or changes to those minutes? Hearing none, the minutes of the Winter Board meetings as circulated are hereby approved. I now turn to the Chancellor for his report.
It's been 2 years. I still remember how to get to the podium. It is great to see you all here in person, almost everybody in person, and for me to have this opportunity to share with you a brief report on university business. Let me start by acknowledging what has been a very busy period of time. For, as all of you know, the lion's share of work for this board occurs in our committee structure. We've had a very busy period, and I just want to thank all the trustees for your hard work and dedication to all of that work in our committees. The June meeting in particular of the Board of Trustees is always a time of transition. This is where a number of trustees will complete their terms. Others are going to be elected and welcomed onto the board. Some will step into new roles or stepping off new roles, and some are coming back after a year off and coming back onto the board. So these comings and goings are part of the lifeblood of a strong and healthy board. And I know we will shortly be addressing those resolutions and these transitions, and this board will be voting on them. And so I don't want to get ahead of that process, but this is my moment to make a few comments. And I just wanted to do so. First, starting with Mary Ellen and Lou Costello, our two vice chairs who took on that role at the request of Tom Richards. Tom, knowing that he was in Chicago, recognized that he would be benefited from having vice chairs. What neither of them could have anticipated was Tom's passing. And of course that leading to Mary Ellen having to take on the responsibilities of the chair in Tom's absence. I just want to make a note about Tom. You know, he never got a chance to do this, to be in a board meeting in person like this, and I know how much he would have loved it. So our thoughts are very much with Tom and about Tom and with his family today. But I just want to acknowledge, that exceptional service, particularly from you, Mary Ellen, as you took this on. I know this is also your end of your term on the board. And just make a comment that Mary Ellen did this while performing one of the most challenging jobs in government. I was formerly an acting deputy secretary of the Commerce Department, which was a pretty busy job. I used to say all the tough stuff came into the deputy secretary's office. The secretary might disagree with that. She is the chief of staff to the deputy secretary of Homeland Security. So literally every major issue affecting the security of the United States is something that she's dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and how she's managed to join all those weekly calls and do all the things we've asked her to do is simply extraordinary. So Mary Ellen, I want to thank you not only for your service to this board, but to our country at this time. Lou is also one of the 5 trustees who will complete his term as committee chair, nominating governance and nominating. I always get backwards on that. But the others include Marta Whittington for budget, Dave Shavern for risk and compliance, Ed Greffenstadt for investment, Deb Gelati for institutional advancement. I want to thank all of you for your leadership. As we said, the committees are the workhorse of this board. In addition, Marta and Herb Scheer are retiring from the board after this meeting. We will miss you both. It's actually hard to imagine this board with both of you on. And I want to thank you personally on behalf of the university for your long service to this institution and to this board, and particularly for all the work and leadership on our committees. We also have several trustees who have reached the end of their terms. Jane Allred, Wen-Ta Chu, and Keith Schaefer. That means they're at least gone for a year, but I want to thank them as well for their service. And a number of individuals are being nominated to serve in new or returning roles, and that includes alumni, special, and trustees. And of course, we'll be re-electing the slate of UPMC board directors whose terms are up. It's a busy time. A short message of thanks and appreciation. Aside from the big paychecks you get for doing this job, I'm just kidding. This is volunteer work, and it is a labor of love, I think, for all of us to serve this institution. You being asked to do it in the context of everything else you do day to day is deeply appreciated. Your skills, your knowledge, your hard work, your generosity, and your support to the university are deeply appreciated, and I just want to thank all of you. I will make a few brief updates of some recent news regarding the university. It's a news-filled day for those of you who've been watching news feeds. But I just want to put a disclaimer up front. This is not my full annual summary. That occurs in September. So that's good news for you. It's been a long day of meetings. But I do have a couple items that are timely that I should share. The first is the accreditation. Universities are accredited according to standards that recognize how we conduct and assure the quality of the institution. They really are the underwriters of the quality of a university. Our accreditor is the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, and this reaccreditation process happens every decade. It is a 2-year process. It's designed to instill public confidence in the institution's mission, goals, performance, and resources, and it's a requirement for access to federal or state funds for research programs or facilities and government sources of financial aid support for students. Now, we're still awaiting the final word, but we have had our exit interview, and we are told that Pitt not only met all standards, but it exceeded them or met them with flying colors. The visiting team from Middle States noted that Pitt is a highly collaborative research university. They commended us 12 separate times for our performance on the self-study process that was documented in the 100-page report, and they commended the university 4 separate times on our performance against the standards themselves. That is not routinely done. And so that's an extraordinary outcome and a credit, of course, to all the work across the university. In particular, that 2-year process is a lot of work. within the university. And I want to in particular tip my hat to Vice Provost Joe McCarthy. Joe is sitting right there. And the entire academic affairs team in the Office of the Provost. Kenyon Bonner was on that effort. But they were joined by more than 250 faculty, staff, students, administrators, and many of you as trustees who met with the Middle States team, participated as members of the steering committee or working groups, or provided feedback on the self-study. So thank you. On other news, a couple new faces that we are welcoming to the university in our academic leadership. Many of you know 1 month ago, Eugene Anderson was named as the new Henry E. Haller Jr. Dean of the Joseph M. Katz Graduate School of Business and also the College of Business Administration. Gene has outstanding higher education administrative experience. In fact, he's really a seasoned business dean. He was the dean of the Whitman School of Management at Syracuse since 2017 and dean of the University of Miami Business School for the previous 5 years. He began his academic career at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business, where he quickly moved up the academic ranks to Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs, among other leadership roles. He himself is a noted scholar with a passion for student and alumni success, high-impact research and education, diversity and inclusion, and the potential for business schools to advance the economic, social, and overall health of their communities. We could not be more excited to welcome him to the Pitt community, where he begins in August. I want to thank the search committee for their work on this, and I just want to tip my hat to Arjang Assad, our current dean, who Gene will be replacing. Arjang began his remarkable service as dean in 2015. He returns to our business faculty, and Arjang has simply presided over a remarkable period of achievement and recognition for Katz and CBA, and he leaves this role with our deepest gratitude. On much newer news, in the health sciences, we had an equally competitive search for the next dean of our School of Pharmacy. In this case, the clear choice was as close to home as you can get. Amy Lynn Siebert is the new dean of the University School of Pharmacy, effective July 1. She is currently chair of our own Department of Pharmacy and Therapeutics, a position she has held in interim and then permanent capacity since 2020. Excuse me, that wouldn't be very long, 2010. She is also an administrative director of the pharmacy residency programs, director of our pharmacoanalytics fellowship, and associate director for pharmacy programs at our renowned Institute for Simulation Education and Research. She is a twice alumna of the university, having earned her undergraduate and doctoral degrees at our School of Pharmacy. She is an international leader in simulation education in pharmacy. Her research focuses on the scholarship of education using simulation, as well as improvement of clinical outcomes in cardiovascular disease and critical care, with an emphasis on medication safety. And again, I want to recognize the hard work of that search committee for their excellent work in this national search, which just happened to land so close to home. And again, really with a recognition of the remarkable tenure and work of Pat Kroboth, our current dean, an extraordinary 2-decade-long career as our dean, which has seen it rise to extraordinary heights, and her own leadership as a national leader in pharmacy education and research. We all owe Pat a great debt of gratitude for her high energy and dedicated service to our School of Pharmacy. Also, right here, our new Vice Chancellor for Government Relations and Advocacy, David Brown, joined the university in April as Vice Chancellor for Government Relations and Advocacy. He's responsible for, it's a pretty sleepy activity, not much going on, engaging lawmakers and advocating for Pitt's policy priorities at all levels of government, local, regional, state, federal. And he, of course, in the current context, hit the ground running as soon as he arrived here in early May. He comes to us from the University of Southern California, where he served as the Vice President of Federal Relations, managing a staff of more than 200 in support of USC's advocacy efforts. He has expertly navigated the complex fields of higher education, medicine, and government at all levels, and is very well positioned to usher in a new era of government affairs and advocacy for this university. His role will include advocating for issues like access and affordability for Pennsylvania students and for policies that will enable and enhance Pitt research. And so, David, we welcome you to the university and your first board meeting. His introduction also gives me an opportunity to transition to the final update, which is, of course, on our budget situation. And as you are all aware, we've spent a lot of time there this year. This has been a very intense and busy season with a major effort to build support for our annual state appropriation request. We have now entered, so to speak, crunch time. And the matter is now in the hands of our elected officials. Supporting their responsibility is, and they're under very active legislative consideration, these bills before the House and Senate right now. We expect and hope the next week to be a productive time in Harrisburg. It will certainly be a very busy time with lots of activity both on and off the floors of both chambers. We're hopeful that the process will reach a conclusion over the next few weeks before lawmakers manage to break for their summer recess. And I will just say, while I do not know the final outcome of those deliberations, what I do know is that our community made its case, and I believe they made it extraordinarily well. I don't believe there's a lawmaker in Harrisburg. Frankly, I don't think there's a resident in the Commonwealth that can claim that they did not hear about the vital role that state funding plays in support of Pennsylvania students and their families, and how it supports our critical public mission to advance the state welfare through education and knowledge. This essential message was delivered by thousands in hundreds of different ways, and it included the voices of our students, our faculty and staff. It came from public officials and community leaders in and around our campuses and across the region and state, from business, labor, and other civic leaders, and it all was to share how Pitt supports success and growth for the Commonwealth. It came from stakeholder citizens with no seemingly obvious ties to the university who simply believe that access to Pitt is vital to Pennsylvania's success and that the state is better off with a leading research-intensive university among the ranks of the publicly affiliated institutions. Many of you in this room played and continue to play an absolutely vital role in this ongoing public discussion and decision. And now is really not the time to start enumerating those individuals, but I just want to say you know who you are. And I want you to know that you have our profound gratitude for your support of our university at this critical time. And to the many thousands who have lent their voices or traveled to Harrisburg or their local lawmaker's office, wrote letters, attended meetings, made phone calls, simply put, thank you. In any public process, decision makers need to hear from those who are most affected by their decisions. And I know that your voice was heard by those who will be voting on this decision. Because while we are at this critical junction, we are still without a certain outcome. I did want to point out there is an impact on us, and it has to do with the university's own budget, which our fiscal year begins July 1. It obviously is dependent on what happens in Harrisburg. And because we still have some uncertainty, our next fiscal year, we can't finalize that budget right now. So it is my understanding the Budget and Executive Committee joint meetings that are typically held to consider and to approve the university's budget are scheduled for mid-May. And so I just want to acknowledge that would be the earliest time in which our budget, mid-July. I'm having a time lapse here. That would be the earliest moment in which that decision would be done. That does mean there's a small delay in information that I know our university community is always anxious to hear. But I know that these kind of delays do happen. This university is accustomed to this, and we will continue to coordinate and work closely through the state's appropriation process. As always, I know of the intense interest. We will continue to keep you informed as things evolve. And with that, Madam Vice Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Chancellor Gallagher. Thank you very much. We will now receive updates from committees on the board, which have held public meetings since our winter Board of Trustees meeting in February. First, I turn to Trustee Pete Bereschetti for the report of the Properties and Facilities Committee. Sir?
Thank you, Vice Chair Callahan. The Property and Facilities Committee held 3 public meetings via Zoom on April 29, May 23rd, and June 21st, 2022. At the April 29, 2022 meeting, the committee discussed the Campus Recreation and Wellness Center project. The 9-story, 270,000 square foot facility will include gymnasiums, fitness areas, an aquatic center, jogging track, specialized activity spaces, dining facilities, and space for a future wellness suite, among other amenities. The project was approved in the amount of $255 million. Also at this meeting, the 5th and Halkett core and shell construction was discussed. This project will complete the core and shell construction for a 306,000 square foot building, including 10 stories of programmable space for laboratories, classrooms, offices, retail, ancillary, and support spaces, as well as a parking garage. The core and shell construction is designed to offer flexibility to meet the needs of multiple university programs under consideration for the building. The programmatic build-out for the building will be completed under a separate project to be presented to the committee for consideration at a future meeting. The core and shell project was approved in the amount of $154 million. Combined, these two projects are projected to generate 2,167 construction jobs and 867 support jobs for the state and regional economies. The committee also reviewed the acquisition of 3607 through 3611 Forbes Avenue, also commonly known as the Strand Building. The 5-story, 39,000 square foot property is a strategic asset located in the heart of Oakland and includes space for 4 retail tenants on the first floor, office space currently occupied by the School of Medicine, and 20 residential apartments. This acquisition aligns with the university's real estate strategy. The committee approved the acquisition of this property at a purchase price of $17 million plus closing costs of approximately $925,000, pending final due diligence. At our May 23rd, 2022 meeting, the committee discussed the acquisition of Bridgeside Point 2, located at 450 Technology Drive. This property consists of approximately 162,000 square feet of office and laboratory space and has been fully occupied by the School of Medicine since its construction in 2009. This property is situated in a strategic location and is aligned with the university's real estate strategy. The acquisition was approved in the amount of $81 million plus miscellaneous transfer and closing costs estimated at $3 million, pending final due diligence. At the June 21st, 2022 meeting, the committee reviewed enabling work for the planned Arena and Sports Performance Center project. The enabling work is critical to maintaining the planned schedule for construction of the new facility. Work will include procurement and installation of a permanent shoring system on the site and commencement of site excavation. The construction of the new building will be presented for approval at a future meeting. The enabling work was approved in the amount of $15 million. This project is projected to generate 80 construction jobs and 32 support jobs for the state and regional economies. Madam Vice Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Pete. I will now turn to Trustee Ed Greffenstadt for the report of the Investment Committee. Sir.
Thank you, Vice Chair Callahan. The Investment Committee held a public meeting via Zoom on June 10, 2022 to approve 2 spending distribution rates for the Consolidated Endowment Fund. Specifically, with respect to the university's operating fund's quasi-endowment, the income percentage will remain unchanged for fiscal year 2023 and will be 4.75% of the 3-year average market value. The income from this fund supports student financial aid. With respect to the other funds in the Consolidated Endowment Fund, the income percentage will remain unchanged for fiscal year 2023 and will be 4.25% of the 3-year average market value. Both distributions will increase by approximately 12.1% relative to the distributions from fiscal year 2022. In addition, there is also an annual 0.45% charge to fund administrative costs. Vice Chair Callahan, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ed. I'll now ask the Chair of the Student Affairs Committee, Robbie Luxbacher, for her report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Callahan. The Student Affairs Committee held a special public meeting via Zoom on Friday, June 17th. At that meeting, the Student Affairs Committee voted to approve an increase to the student wellness fee for the University of Pittsburgh campus by $50 per year per full-time student and $25 per year per part-time student in fall 2022 and in fall 2023. This increase will help the campus keep pace with the rising demand for high-quality mental health and medical services, and to proactively scale up campus recreation staff to support the new 270,000 square foot campus recreation and wellness center, which is scheduled to open in fall 2024. The Student Affairs Committee voted to approve a new campus recreation and wellness center facility fee at the University of Pittsburgh campus, effective fall 2024. This new fee will cover the debt service for the construction of the facility until the retirement of the debt. The amount of the facility fee will not be formally established or charged to students until the fiscal year 2025 or the scheduled opening of the new center. This will ensure that the fee reflects the actual cost of the debt service and that the debt service fee will only be paid by students who will have access to the new center. The Student Affairs Committee also voted to approve an increase to the student health fee at the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg from $30 per term for full-time students to $40 per term for full-time students, effective for the fall term 2022. This increase will cover the rising costs of operating the health center, including the cost of an electronic medical record software system, equipment and supplies, a campus physician, and support of the counseling center. The Student Affairs Committee voted to approve an increase to the student recreation fee at the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown from $76 per term for full-time students to $90 per term for full-time students, effective for the fall term 2022. This fee increase will cover the rising cost of operating the Wellness Center and a planned esports program. Lastly, the Student Affairs Committee voted to approve the elimination of the student health fee at the University of Pittsburgh at Titusville, effective fall 2022. This fee will be eliminated since student services offices on this campus were closed as the campus transitioned to a non-residential campus. There is no on-site health service provided at Pitt Titusville, and there is a lack of demand for telehealth and telecounseling services. Vice Chair Callahan, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Robbie. I would now like to call on Vice Chair Sestelli for the report of the Governance and Nominating Committee. His report will contain several resolutions for the board's consideration, and I would like to remind those trustees who are subject of any of the resolutions to abstain for the vote of that resolution. Sir.
Thank you, Vice Chair Callahan. The Governance and Nominating Committee is charged with the responsibility of presenting recommendations to the Board of Trustees for candidates to serve as trustees and for other trustee positions. As permitted under the Sunshine Act, the committee held executive sessions prior to this meeting for the purpose of considering such appointments. Full discussions were conducted, but no vote or formal action was taken. As duly advertised at a duly advertised public meeting on June 7th, 2022, the committee endorsed the recommendation contained in the resolutions that are before the board today, and which are all included in the materials for this meeting. The meeting materials contain the committee nominees for members of the University of Pittsburgh Board of Trustees, university directors to the Board of Directors of UPMC, and the chairperson of the University of Pittsburgh Board of Trustees. So starting with the committee's nomination for trustees of the board, there are several incumbent trustees who are being presented for re-election to the University of Pittsburgh Board of Trustees in the categories noted in the resolutions. These incumbent trustees are Vaughn S. Claggett, James P. Covert, Celisa L. Berrien, Gary T. Brownlee, David J. Morehouse. In addition, there were 5 candidates for election to the University of Pittsburgh's Board of Trustees. The biographies of these candidates are contained in the meeting materials. The candidates are Eva Tansky-Bloom, Dawn S. Hickton, David C. Frederick, Jeffrey D. Marchek, and Valerie Enjai. Vice Chair Callahan, on behalf of the the Governance and Nominating Committee, I move that these candidates be elected or re-elected to the Board of Trustees as set forth in the resolution before the board today.
May I have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'd like to abstain.
Thank you.
I would like to abstain as well.
Thank you, Celisa. Great. Thank you all. The motion has passed. And congratulations to those re-elected board members. Thank you for agreeing to serve again on behalf of the board. And I'd like to congratulate our 5 new board members who will attend the fall meeting of the board when we'll have an opportunity to welcome them, hopefully in person, for the board. I would like to note, with term limits and the election of new candidates comes the mixed emotions of having to acknowledge that other members of the board will end their term today. First, I'd like to acknowledge Marna Whittington and Herb Shear, who will be retiring from the board following this meeting. Marna joined the board in 2018 and has served on several committees, including as chair of the Budget Committee and as members of the Investment, Audit, Executive, and Compensation Committees. Herb joined the board in 2011 and has served on nearly all the committees, including as chair of the the Budget Committee, a member of Governance and Nominating, Properties and Facilities, Executive, Institutional Advancement, Compensation, and Investment Committees. We are extremely grateful to both of you for your extraordinary service and commitment to the board and the university, and we thank you for your invaluable contributions. I would also like to acknowledge trustees who have reached the end of their terms after many years of devoted service to the board. Jane Allred, who joined the board in 2014. Thank you, Jane. I see you online. Wentan Shu is also online, who joined the board in 2019. And Keith Schaefer was online, but is not on right away. He joined the board in 2006 and became an institution for our Student Affairs Committee, where he served for more than 15 years, including as chair until I replaced him a few years ago. All of you have given so much and have served on so many different boards. We are incredibly grateful for your service. Marna, Herb, Keith, Jane, and Wenta, we hope that we may still call on you and that today does not mark the end of your engagement with the university and your colleagues on the board, who will miss you dearly. In addition, I would like to note my own departure from the board as I have reached the end of my term, mirroring my friends. Serving on the Board of Trustees actually has been an opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm very grateful for that. As serving as vice chair, performing the duties of the chair, has been extraordinarily rewarding, hard, and I could not have done it without my co-vice chair, as well as the chancellor. I will miss our Monday calls, and I will miss our working through the complicated issues that you laid out in your chancellor's report. I have been very grateful to serve with 2 chancellors, both of whom I knew when I was an undergraduate here at the University of Pittsburgh. And I look forward to watching from afar as you guys select somebody else from my past. So I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm really excited about the opportunities. So with that said, I would also like to acknowledge the following trustees as they conclude their terms as committee chairs at the end of June. As I mentioned, Marna Whittingham, chair of the Budget Committee, David Shavrin, who's on, chair of Risk and Compliance, Ed Greffenstadt for investment, Debbie Gelati, chair of investment, the Institutional Advancement Committee, and Vice Chair Lou for governance and nominating, soon to take over as investment. As you know, much of the work is done as committees, as the Chancellor noted, and your leadership as chairs has been critical to the function of the board and hence the oversight of the university. So thank you all for your service, for your guidance, for your help, and your support. Vice Chair, I turn it back to you, sir.
Thank you, Vice Chair Callahan. The next item on the agenda is a resolution regarding the Governance and Nominating Committee's recommendations of trustees to serve as university directors to the UPMC Board. This year, the Governance and Nominating Committee is recommending the re-election of those university directors of the UPMC Board of Directors whose terms were due to expire this year: Vaughn Claggett, James Covert, and John Verbanek. Vice Chair Callahan, on behalf of the Governance and Nominating Committee, I move that these nominees be elected to university directors to the as university directors to the UPMC Board of Directors as set forth in the resolution before the board today.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'd like to abstain, please.
Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you. The resolution has been approved. Congratulations, and thank you for your willingness to serve on the UPMC Board of Directors again. Before we move the final resolution, I would like to thank Vice Chair Costello and the members of the Governance and Nominating Committee for the time they have invested in evaluating and nominating these excellent candidates. Back to you, sir.
Thank you. The next resolution before the board is a resolution recommending the election of Douglas M. Browning as chairperson of the board for his first term. If elected, he will also serve as first vice chairman of the UPMC Board of Directors. A biography of Trustee Browning is included in your meeting materials, along with a resolution recommending his election. Vice Chair Callahan, on behalf of the Governance and Nominating Committee, I move that Douglas Browning be elected to serve as board chairperson of the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second. Kate Allred.
Sounds like there's more than two.
Yes.
Any discussion about Doug's nomination to be chair of this distinguished board? I'll just say, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Thank you. The resolution has been approved.
That at some point even start to work.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. If any of you have noticed over the last couple of weeks, that smile on Mary Ellen's face has gotten larger and larger and larger. From my days on the Alumni Association Board, to my time on the Dietrich School Board of Visitors, to my selection to serve on this board, I have had the honor and the privilege of working with many of you who are now among those who I call friends. Your energy, dedication, and commitment to the University of Pittsburgh is obvious in everything that I have seen and everything you have done over those years. Like many of you, I was really looking forward to working with Tom Richards in his role as chair of this board. To Mary Ellen Callahan, performing the duties of the chair, and to Lou Costello, our vice chair, let me thank you on behalf of this board for your stepping in and willingness to fill the void created by Tom's untimely and unfortunate death. To my fellow board members, to the extent that I have had any success in life, much of it is attributable to the excellent Pitt education that I received. So your election and selection of me to serve as your chair is a huge honor and privilege. I think we all know there are many challenging times ahead, but I look forward to working with you, the Academy's leadership, our faculty, our staff, and our students in addressing these challenges. I pledge to you that I will work hard to further the tradition of collaborative and stellar leadership of previous chairs, and to continue to move Pitt from an outstanding academic institution to an exceptional and elite university. And one final thank you. 35 years ago, I was smart enough to marry above myself. A good partner, a great friend, an outstanding mother, and the best lawyer you can get for nothing in the United States of America. Sheila, thank you for supporting me on all those various journeys we've been on. Get ready to pack your bags again. I love you. Thank you for your support. And also, most importantly, thank you for suggesting that we go to the Currituck County Maritime Museum. Again, to all my fellow board members, thank you for this vote of confidence. I will do my very best to serve you and this university. Thank you. Okay, now for new business. I know it's a bit unusual for someone who's been chair less than 10 minutes to have any new business, but I know one item that will likely require some action before our next meeting in September. So I did want to spend a few minutes outlining the steps I will be taking this summer. Our overall objective for the search process for our next chancellor is to conduct a robust national search that successfully identifies truly outstanding candidates for our consideration. That goal, which I know many of you share, gives rise to several key features of our process. First, we will have to have the right search committee. The board, who has the ultimate responsibility for electing our next chancellor, needs to have the support of a truly outstanding search committee to identify an outstanding list of finalists for our consideration. This means that the committee should include a wide range of viewpoints, experience, and perspectives. I believe that the past two searches used a committee structure that has proven to be effective for the university, and I plan on using those approaches as a template for defining the composition of the committee, the calendar, and the providing support to that committee. Second, we will need the right search firm. To support the work of the committee, we need an exceptional and highly respected search firm. These firms not only provide support for the committee, but they can act as advisors to the process by sharing best practices. They can advocate for the search by advertising, activating their networks, and getting the word out, and they can help us identify prospective candidates, including those that might currently be in leadership positions in other institutions. And thirdly, we will need a great start. There are other universities that will also be looking for candidates this fall. It is important that we be prepared to form our committee, including a call for nominations for faculty, staff, and student members as soon as possible after the start of our fall term. It is also important that our search process begin with a very robust period of engagement. We want the committee and the search firm to engage with this board, with the current administration, with the faculty, students, and staff on all of our campuses, and with our alumni, and with key regional and national stakeholders to identify those attributes that we seek in our next chancellor. This will take some time, but a shortcut at this critical stage could lower our chances of success. My goals over the course of the summer will be to select our search consulting firm, a request for proposals, has been prepared and has already, I think, Javed, you confirmed, has gone out. It's gone out. Perfect. I want to thank Mary Ellen for getting us a head start in this process. Hopefully, we will have proposals to review in the next month or so and affirm under contract before I begin to appoint the committee in late August or early September. We are currently in the process of collecting the list of potential members. I will be using the 2013 and 1995 search process as a guideline for selecting committee members. To many trustees who have already expressed interest in serving or have nominated others to serve on the committee, thank you. These committees can be a lot of work, and it says a lot about the great things about this board that so many of you have already stepped up and expressed your willingness to serve. I look forward to reviewing this information with Lou as soon as possible. Therefore, if you are interested, there's still some time for you to put your name forward. So please feel free to contact Lou until such time as we appoint a new chair of governance and nominating. I think you should expect me to make decisions on the appointments sometime in late August. This will allow me to review all the appointments at the same time and helps me to make certain we properly balance the makeup of the committee. I will be reaching out to the leadership of this University Senate this summer to work with them on how they will identify candidates from the faculty assembly, staff council, and the appropriate student government boards. I would like them to be prepared to move quickly as the semester starts this fall. My goal is to get the committee underway by early September. This allows them to have a very busy month or so of town halls, websites, surveys, and other forms of community engagement to define the profile of the candidates we seek for Chancellor. I hope to have this board review that draft profile at our September board meeting so that we can go into the market shortly thereafter. I know this is aggressive, but it gives us the best chance to enter the market at the right time with the right committee and with the right search firm and the right process in place that will benefit from a robust engagement within the university's many stakeholders. I will keep you posted over the course of the summer via email as we progress, and will, of course, be reaching out to some of you to talk about your interest in serving on the committee. Is there any other new business? If not, hearing none, this meeting, this is going to be nice. This meeting is now adjourned.